we try and close the gender gap, especially when it comes to Africa. It's so important because the gap is so big. Do you know, Doreen, if you look at a platform like Wikipedia, which is the online leading encyclopedia, and it's important. Wikipedia is basically important because it advocates for free knowledge, which means any information that is on Wikipedia can be read by anybody, regardless of where they are, and it can even be used for free, you know, without any legal constraint. So if you look at that space, only 10% of coverage in that platform is on women. Yeah, so
which is a very small percentage.
It is. Yes, so I'm really just keen on empowering, especially young people, because we are the majority in Africa. In our country, we are also the majority. We're also working on empowering people or young people, not just to be consumers of information, but also creators of information, because that is important. We live in a world where everybody has knowledge on something. So if you have the platform to share that, then you benefit somebody else. Yeah.
And we'll come back to interrogate the gender issue perhaps later on in the conversation, but let's come back to your initiative, Voice It. Talk to us about that, where it began, what the intention and purpose of it was.
Voice It is my baby. And first, let me start by apologizing to the subscribers, because
you've not been, by that check, you've not been posting for a while.
Since COVID came, and you know, COVID disrupted everything. But then Voice It was that platform, or rather the vision for Voice It. I wanted to create a platform leveraging on what the new media space, and then YouTube channels are coming up. They've been that space where young people or even anyone wants to consume, you know, information chap on the go, and also information that is curated for their needs. So I wanted a platform. I noticed there wasn't a space for young people to just talk about, have conversations on things that matter to us, have conversations about, you know, careers. How do you leverage yourself for, you know, a job promotion? How do you brand yourself online? Also, if it comes to, you know, topical issues, political issues, create that safe space where it is us, peers, engaging, and our voice matters. We have that media outlet. So that is what Voice It was all about. And I will say the success of that, if you look at the videos that have done so well, the videos that have so many views on that channel, it's the videos that are just curated to help people make the best information, or rather make the best decisions about their life. Yeah, so I think that's powerful for me. And going forward, this year it's the year that I really want to activate that. But then other than just Voice It, because I'm so dynamic. And other than Voice It, I still use other platforms, you know, to, you know, advocate for media and information literacy, to inform, to empower. I use a publication such as the Kenya Forum Online, where I write for, and I also do a lot of, you know, trainings for young people. Early this year, we were part of a team, the Wikimedia Community Kenya, that trained around 100 people, 100 students at the Pwani University on how they can contribute and help grow Swahili Wikipedia. So yeah, and even by having this conversation on your show, Doreen, it's also one way of raising awareness and advocacy on media and information literacy.
So we can safely say that you really have a heart for young people. Let's just see how we can be able to make proper and right decisions, in essence.
Absolutely. And I'm young myself, so it has to start. Charity begins at home. Exactly.
All right, so in your analysis, even just as a communication specialist, what would you say in terms of why people tend not to speak? I mean, just hearing you speak and talk, I would want to imagine that if something is pressing me, particularly as a young person, could be in any front, could be matters to do with leadership, corruption, politics, anything, I need to be able to speak up, because then change begins from there. But why do we not speak? Why do we keep quiet? What is the problem?
That's a very good question. And I will say first, I think there's the culturalization. How have we been culturalized? You know, and some of us come from backgrounds where you are not allowed to question, you are not allowed to speak up. What your parents or guardians or anybody around you says, that goes.
Whatever they say, that's it.
Exactly. So there's that bit where, you know, children grow with that and becomes difficult to get out of that shell as adults. And that's why even when we do a lot of our empowerments, we still speak to parents. Let your child grow up in an environment where they are allowed to speak up. At the end of the day, speaking up has nothing to do with respect. You just teach them, how do they speak to you? How do they disagree if they're not happy with something? Then that becomes, we're empowering them to be, you know, active citizens. Because you know, we are not growing children for our homes. We are growing children for the society. There's that bit. And then secondly, there's a bit about the avenues in which people are speaking about these things, which is important because we have to identify the relevant platforms where we are speaking. You could have an issue around governance, but then by just talking about it with your boys kwa mtaa or anywhere, it's not enough. Are you participating in civic engagement forums, which are always there at the county level, at the national level? Are you doing that? Are you putting your opinions, if you're somebody who can write, are you putting your opinions on a paper and sending them to an editor somewhere? Are you putting those information on social media platforms? So we also need to identify the relevant avenues where we can air our grievances and people can take action. And I'm sure, Doreen, you've even seen posts that have gone viral on social media. And this is somebody who just made use of the platform, highlighted a grievance, and other people leveraged on that, and it escalated and got the attention that it deserved. Yeah, so it's important to know the relevant platforms to use, and even how you communicate and how you engage the relevant stakeholders. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we need to learn how to speak out.
Exactly, very important.
But you know, someone would say, particularly as a young person, they would say, I have addressed these issues oftentimes. I have talked about this oftentimes, but I feel like nothing is being done. There's no address taking forward. So in essence, wacha tu ninyamaze. Sauti yangu haisaidii. What would you say to such kind of a young person? Because this is what you largely deal with.
Yes, and that's really a valid point, and I see that a lot. But you know, as young people, let me just tell you, we cannot afford to give up. We just can't, you know. And sometimes when you get to that space where you feel like you want to give up because nothing is happening, you know, you want to play complacent and you say, wacha tu niendelee kuvumilia kuwa Mkenya.
Because that's the way
it is the way it is, you know. Yeah, so sometimes for me, I've also been in that space, Doreen, to be honest. But then sometimes you look back and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And then you also take stock of the different milestones, achievements that have been made by some of our leaders who at the time were even young people like us, or sometimes they might not even have been that young, but you look at the efforts they put. People who fought for our constitution, people who fought for our freedom of speech, which is something, if you look at countries in Africa, you realize that as Kenyans, we are actually very privileged. You look at the people who fought for that, and you're like, if they could do this, if they could, you know, hang on there for us to enjoy these things, then we owe it to other generations. You look at people like Gitobu Imanyara, people who really fought for, you know, the freedoms of these countries. You look at someone like Martha Karua, and you're like, JB Kilimo, the woman who fought for Kenya's sexual act, and you're like, we cannot afford to give up. At the end of the day, something will work. It will. We have to remain optimistic and push. Yeah.
You know, you've talked about freedom of speech, and I've reminded of a report that was released yesterday showing that when it comes to the East and Central Africa, Kenya is the country with that space whereby even opposition leaders can go to campaign anywhere and say anything and talk about anything. When you go to countries surrounding the East Central Africa region bloc, that is not happening because that freedom is not there yet.
Exactly.
We have that because, again, someone, somehow, somewhere, while they were young, they fought for that.
Exactly. And that's important to know. And I'm glad that you've raised that. And actually, one of the popular videos I did on Voice It, there was a time when Bobi Wine from Uganda was, you know, campaigning, and there was a time he was arrested. And at that time, Uganda's media had been censored. And I remember there
was no social media, actually.
There wasn't. And actually, it was Kenyans who were advocating for free Bobby wine.
We were giving them information on what is happening in their country.
Exactly. So we have certain privileges that we enjoy to date because people fought for them. Yeah, so it's important for us to carry on with our spirit. We are fighters, we are champions. We have issues as a country, yes, we need to deal with, but we are the people that are going to deal with those issues. Yeah.
Right. Winnie, you've largely talked about the gender issues, you know, largely what you focus on as a person, but also talk to me about the other issues that you talk about in the platform and also in the platform Voice It and also on Kenya Forum. Which other issues do you focus on that pertains to mostly young people?
About young people, we talk about career development because the world is really changing, and it's important then for people to know how they can leverage on technology for career growth. Like when you look at the digital space, people need to know, young people need to know avenues where they can upskill. You know, we talk about, you know, platforms such as Upwork. We talk about platforms such as Ajira Digital, where you can even go and enhance your skills, take up a new course. We talk about careers that are, you know, are becoming popular in today's marketplace. We talk about how to even negotiate for a pay rise, which are not things that ordinarily we see on the day-to-day media platforms, and especially in our country that is so largely driven by politics. So we talk about those things, and then this empowers young people to know what is possible, because honestly, Doreen, what you don't know really cannot help you. And then sometimes we see people, and this is not just for those who are unemployed, but even for the employed folks. How do you, you know, even position yourself for a job promotion? How do you negotiate for a salary rise? Because those are the things that keep coming up. And you know, the good thing, I see people, you know, sending me DMs. I see people sending me emails, and they even ask, could you please talk about this issue? And even in some of those comments,
which issues do they say that you need to talk about more?
Like how you can negotiate for a salary,
when it
how
comes
you can
to career.
ask, when it comes to career. Sometimes they just want you, they just want your opinion on a trending issue. Like, what is your position on this? You know, so by just looking at, and I also do, I also look at Google reports, and they always do this annual report of, you know, what Kenyans are searching for online. So I also use that to, you know, curate content around that. And sometimes also you will notice, like, when you go to a certain Google page, there are some things that people are searching for. Then that also shows you that there's really some information gap around there, and people are thirsty for this information. So we talk about careers. We talk about how other young people started their businesses, because motivation is also important, because we live in a world where people think, if I don't have this 5 million or 1 million, I cannot start a business. And one of the videos that I actually have on my channel, Voice It, is on how I started my professional cleaning business. And this is a lady who just started as a mama fua. She was outsourcing mama fua services. And this is how she started. Now she's doing cleaning, post-construction cleaning, and her business grew out of that. People watch that because it's an inspiring story. Yeah, so just empowering people to know what's possible. And also something else that I do with the community in Kenya, with the Wikipedia community in Kenya.
Yes.
We're really working on shrinking the gender gap on Wikipedia, and we'll write a lot of biographies on women.
Now, just hold it there. Before we get to that gender issue, let's just go back a bit on that career explanation that you're giving, and I want us to interrogate a bit just about that, because right now, as it stands, about 5.7 million youths out of the possible over 13 million are currently jobless. So when you talk about the issue of careers, employment, you also talk about startup businesses. In your perspective, and even largely what you've been talking about and dealing with, what do you feel we can do to at least bridge that? Because these are people in their prime who can be very productive, even add up to the GDP of our country, but in essence, they're not quite there. They don't have the spaces to exercise their productivity.
Exactly. Unemployment is a major issue in Africa generally.
Yeah.
And in Kenya, you look at it and majority of young people are unemployed. And this is something I'm really hoping that, you know, the next government is really going to take into heart, because, you know, we just look at it as not a major issue.
Especially if you have
a job.
Or you have a business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the economic implications of the unemployed in the country and to our GDP, people don't ever actually look at that.
Yeah.
And you know, if we have more people relying on the economy more than they are contributing to it, as a country we cannot even reap the demographic dividends.
Yes.
And you realize it's tied to so many things, even such as healthcare, because then if people are unemployed, they are not in, some of them are not informed, some of them are engaging in things they shouldn't be engaging, and then that burden goes to other things. So we need to look at how we can address this issue, and part of that is, you know, giving, and I know we have affirmative action like the Youth Enterprise Fund and stuff, but we really need to do more to ensure that we are powering entrepreneurship in this country, especially for young people, because I've seen it that when young people are empowered, when young people have things going on around themselves, it's more likely that they are going to involve other young people in that space. Again, the retirement age, I don't know how it's still happening in the civil service, because they say is it 50 or they increased it, but you still go to government offices and you see people and you're like,
what happened? I thought we said it's 60.
Exactly. So it's really important for us, you know, to create those avenues. And also, while we are looking at also creating jobs at a local level, the world is also shifting, and this is like a call to action, a challenge I would want to pose to young people. Do not limit your dreams to Kenya. This is our country, yes, but you can still be in Kenya and you have a job, you're doing it remotely. Organizations are recruiting for remote jobs, and especially post-COVID. Please go online, look out for those jobs. If you just even Google, and it's an article I did, it's on the Kenya Forum, top companies that are hiring for full-time remote jobs. You can get a job and you can still do it right here in Kenya. And again, we also need, I feel like we need a shift in the aid to the work environment. That is again one thing that I think can really help with the unemployment issue, where we have flexible working hours. So Doreen, you can come here, do your shoe for 4 hours, and you're not required to be here just because you need to log out of these premises at 5. So we are in a space where employees just want to see you there.
Even
regardless of what you're doing, but they want to see you in the office. We need to shift from that. Then this means that people are actually even being productive. You have 4 hours in organization X, 4 hours doing your side hustle out there, and the next 3 hours doing something different. And again, I've actually seen, and to tie this to gender, because you know I'm passionate about this, flexible work environments are favorable to women. It's amazing what that does, because you know, women, we have the primary responsibility of caregiving. So when you're in a work environment that doesn't allow you to still be a mom at home, to still be, you know, a wife, it becomes difficult for women to thrive in the economic, in the job market, because we always have competing issues. And so once we have this flexible work environment, we're going to do away with this culture, which is very prominent, but people never talk about, of women getting fired or their contracts terminated because they got pregnant and that job allows them to be there.
Imagine.
Exactly.
Such a sad issue.
So we need to have a shift in the 8 to 5 hours. Honestly, you don't need to be there to do that job. And actually, one of the I've actually been a beneficiary of the remote working environment and flexible hours, and it's amazing. So as young people, do not limit yourself. We need to have a shift, you know, in mindset. Look for opportunities out there, the NGO world, media, freelance gig economy. Opportunities are just there. You just need to go for them, upskill, and just be assertive. That's the word.
I hear you. And now I can clearly see how you're using your platform to make a difference, particularly to my generation, you know, the young people. Yeah. All right, now let's come to that gender bit, much as you've touched on it bit by bit here and there. You also talked about the biography on the Chief Justice. But what has been the impact so far, when particularly as you address the issue on gender? Because right now, even as we speak as a country, even you look at the political sphere, right now they keep talking about, is it the gender agenda? You know, is it a time for women to even take up leadership positions? Is it a time for women to really get into elective position? It wasn't so then, but looks like things are sort of changing here and there. What has been the impact so far?
The gender agenda, and yes, we are not afraid to say we are vocal about the gender matter.
It's now. This is the time.
This is the time. And I know statistics still say that we still have a long way to go, but we are getting there. In the last elections, we had 3 female governors elected for the first time. That was quite something. This year, they are hoping to get at least 13, and I really hope they even thrash that. And we have to talk about empowering women in all the relevant spheres, because for a long time, women have been marginalized, really. So we cannot just say we're just pushing for women and leaving the boy child behind. Actually, gender equality is just about that. It's not about women, really. It's not a women agenda. It's just about ensuring that we have equal opportunities for all gender. So if there's a space where we feel like one gender is a bit marginalized, then we will be vocal about that. And the figures are there, the statistics are there, and numbers do not lie. So when it comes to political empowerment of women, there is a major gender gap. And we need to look at, you know, the issues that, you know, contribute to some of these things. Inadequate female participation in the political space. There's the hostility that we all see female political aspirants going through. There are questions that are asked to a woman that a man is not asked. Questions that they're not even questions, like issues that are made to look like a problem. I saw the other day somebody was bringing the issues about Mother Karua's marital status. Do men ever get those kind of questions? They don't. So we need to stop lowering women to certain gendered positions or certain gendered perspectives that we expect them to feel, and just look at a person for who they are. She's a female, yes. She is a leader. Does she have the capacity? Yes. But all these other things are just, you know, sideshows. There's that. And I also feel like it's important also to empower the young women who are also want to get into the political space, where our politics have been made to look like it's for the big moneyed people who can only do that. So we need also, and this goes to the electorate actually, this is not more about the leaders, because we have people throwing themselves for leadership positions, but then the electorate is used to the kitu kidogo before you can elect this person. And we saw it when Boniface Mwangi was campaigning, and even in his documentary, where somebody was saying, you're good, we like what you do, but auna kakitu. You know, we need to shift from that, because today somebody will give you that 50 bob, that 2,000 bob, and then after they're elected, you never get to see them. Yeah, so even as the electorate, we really need a change in the mindset about what is it that we want. Because at the end of the day, I always say, Doreen, a leader will always be as good as his people. You know, as long as our standards remain the basic minimal, then we cannot expect quality leadership. Yes.
And that's why you're here. I mean, to continue passing this information, make us literate in that aspect. But also, as we just bring this conversation to a close, talking about the gender agenda, talking about political empowerment, I would just like to pick your mind on basically what happened on Monday. I mean, the High Court gave a ruling on this 2/3 gender rule. Initially, IEBC had asked political parties, particularly those that had not met this threshold, to go back to the drawing board. As at that time, that was on around April 27, when we were still doing the nomination, it was over 40 political parties, which were told by IEBC, go back and make sure you meet the 2/3 gender principle before we continue the process. In that effect, also IEBC said that when it comes to the list of nomination, you know, the nominated leaders, nominated MPs, nominated senators, it also said to political parties that you need to ensure you meet the 2/3 gender rule in the names that you will submit for purpose of nomination after election. But now, High Court says that IEBC was wrong, because they said there was no proper public participation in that effect, and then 2, it's just too late to ask that of political parties. Now, one may ask, we really have been trying a lot as a country to ensure we get to that space because it is within our constitution, 2/3 gender rule. In fact, there was a time during the reign of the former CJ whereby he actually advised the president to dissolve parliament because that wasn't yet met. So someone may say, is it that we are almost close, then not quite close? Is it that it's a far-fetched idea? Might we really get to this 2/3 gender threshold at the end of the day as a country?
The 2/3 gender issue, man, that has remained elusive for years. And I think it's just, I can't say it is a far-fetched idea.
Okay.
I really think it's just a lack of political goodwill, because we have the laws, we have such progressive laws. And I also think it's a utter disregard of law, because I remember there was even a ruling by Justice Mativo, but then nothing happened. So if we are totally disregarding first we have the constitution, then even judicial rulings, then that shows there's a problem. And I think it's high time that, you know, the political goodwill to effect the 2/3 gender rule just comes into play, because I think that is exactly what is missing. Because it's not like we don't have the women; the women are there. So I never exactly. So I don't always
You are
understand.
here, actually.
I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, I usually just, you know, I honestly just don't get it, and that's why it becomes such a big deal when we see even one of the presidential candidates nominate a woman as the vice president. And I know it's not the first time that has happened per se, as people would argue.
Yes,
but then
it's actually not the first time.
Exactly. But then it's also happening at a time when a lot of women globally are taking up leadership positions at the political scene. So this becomes important. It also becomes important because of the generation agenda. For a long time, a lot of people, a lot of young people who were just young and they were not even 18 qualified to be voters are voters now. We have the biggest bulge right now that has just qualified to be voters. This will be their first election. This matters to them. We need to show them what's possible, because they are the future of Kenya. So we need to start instilling this mindset. This is possible. It shouldn't be even a big deal that, you know, I'm a woman and women are vying for a presidency. Don't look at it as I'm a woman. Look at my qualifications. Am I good for the job? Yes. Forget about the gender. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, a good place to end it. At the end of the day, it starts with changing the mindset. If we can do that, then it will be easy to walk through this path. Good place to end this conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. I have been speaking to Winnie Kabintiye, who is a journalist and a communication specialist, passionate on matters to do with gender and equity advocacy. And of course, we have been just having that conversation on this last segment of Women at the Forefront. Good place to end the conversation, and ultimately, good morning, Kenya. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Doreen Arange Okello on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. We do this again tomorrow. Have a beautiful morning.